Welcome everyone to Self-Care Sunday. Thank you so much for joining me and others in this practice of taking just a few moments out of your day to take care of yourself on a deeper nervous system level. So as I ring the bell, like I always do, I invite you to think about the others who are practicing with us, with you, in their own time, in their own place, in their own way. But just take a moment to imagine and remember that we are all part of a bigger community and we are connected to one another. Take a few moments to feel your breath. Feel your feet on the floor or wherever they're positioned. And feel your whole body being supported by whatever is underneath you. And just allow yourself to relax a little bit more into that support. So thank you so much for showing up, and give yourself a pat on the back for doing so. Let's just remember that self-care isn't about big extravagant practices. It's more about doing things that are simple, don't take a lot of a motivation. They don't take a lot of necessarily like motivating energy. It's just a regular kind of hygiene sort of approach to taking care of ourselves and our nervous systems on the daily. So what really works is consistency. Just committing to these small practices that help to regulate stress, help us to process stress, and bring us back to a little bit of balance, even if it just feels tiny in the moment. That's great. Gentle stretching is one of the simplest ways to do this. Stretching helps release tension that builds up in the body due to stress, and it can also reset and even calm or downregulate the nervous system. It signals to your brain that in this moment you are safe, and paired with intentional breathing, it can help to tone or activate the vagus nerve, which can help us feel a little more relaxed, a little more grounded in our bodies and in our minds. So today I'm just going to give you a short sequence of easy, pretty basic stretches, and just notice as we go how you feel. So I'd like to start with the spine because it's such a big part of our body through the trunk. And we use it all the time and we move it in a lot of different ways. But if we build up stress and tension in our bodies, it can really impact those spinal movements and make us feel tight, limited, and that can decrease our sense of confidence and even just moving through life in the ways we want to. So the movements that you're doing, first of all, if you have anything going on with your body that you're not sure about movement, please check with your doctor, your healthcare practitioner, so that you know that or whether or not this is appropriate for you. But I always say start small, start slow, really check in with yourself as you go and adjust as needed. So you can always stop or pause. You can just stop what you're doing if anything feels a little weird. And then again, check in with somebody that can help you through making the decision of what's appropriate for you. Okay, so the spine basically has 6 different movements, and one of the, or 2 of those movements that complement each other are extension and flexion. So flexion is when we kind of round our backs, and flexion is when we round our backs, and then extension is when we kind of arch our backs, kind of lift our chest. So I invite you to not necessarily do a huge movement, but just start to play with a little bit of pelvic rocking so that your spine starts to move in these little movements front to back. A little rounding, a little bit of an arch. You might find that one way of moving feels a little easier, a little smoother than the other. And that will give you some information that that's kind of your default or go-to. That's what's easiest for you. Mine is arching or back extension. I have a little sway back, and so this is really easy for my body to do. And that can feel really good, but it's also good to invite my body and kind of give my body a little more emphasis sometimes on the flexion so that I'm balancing out the extension, which my body likes to go into. So just notice what's going on for you. And if you want to add your arms, you can. Sometimes I like to reach my arms forward so I get a little stretch there as I round my back or flex my spine. And then sometimes I like to take my arms back, down, or even out as I move into extension or arching. Or you can just keep your hands down on your legs or wherever it's comfortable. Okay, so that's the spinal movements of flexion and extension. Now let's do side flexion. It's kind of like making your spine into a little C curve or a banana shape. I like to do this by placing one hand on the chair or down on the floor if I'm sitting on the floor. Sometimes I even reach down the leg of the chair and reach out my other arm wherever it feels comfortable. Okay, and then you go to the other side. So I'm going to invite you to move in this way as slowly as you want. You don't have to go at the same pace as I do. If your arm does not have this much mobility and it does not stretch easily over your head like this, then just keep it smaller. Don't go as far. It maybe just goes this high, or maybe you have a little bend in your elbow because that feels better, right? So adapt and adjust for you. Keep breathing. So make sure you breathe or bring in some intentional breaths. I usually like to do that a few times, and it opens up the side ribs, the sides of the diaphragm. So hopefully your breathing feels a little more spacious and open because we've stretched around the big breathing muscle, which is right here, called the respiratory diaphragm. Now, the last two movements of the spine are rotation one direction and the other. We also call this twisting. So you don't want to crank your body. You want to be very gentle and sweet and slow. So you bring one hand behind you wherever it will give you a little support. Take your other hand, if it's possible, to your knee across your body and just gently start to turn. You can turn your head a little. And once you feel resistance, just stop for a moment. Take a breath or two. You can see if there's a little more space to go a little further, but no need to push it. And then after a few breaths on one side, nice and easy, go the other way. So when it comes to twisting, unless you're really practiced and agile and you know you have the core strength, you want to keep the twist pretty slow. For those who have, do a lot of movement, stronger core, you have a stronger core and support from your legs and your lower body, you can go a little quicker and it will be fine. But for many of us or many people who maybe don't get as much movement or stretching, slower is better. And you can go into it and hold a little longer than I am, or you can kind of just gently move from side to side a couple more times. Going further, going deeper into the stretch is not necessarily better. That can sometimes send a signal to our nervous system that we're pushing too far, we're overriding the signals and body sensations we're getting as we do it. And that can make the nervous system feel a little bit threatened. And one of the things the nervous system does when it feels threatened is it will clamp down the muscles and tissues. So part of the reason we get so tense and tight is because we're holding a lot of stress that maybe comes from feeling threat in our system. Even if we feel safe, like relatively safe, we know that there aren't any immediate threats. if emotionally or psychologically we're not feeling safe, then the body will respond to that sometimes by tightening the muscles. So just try to move in a way that allows your body and nervous system to know that you're not going to override or push through anything, or just try to go as deep or as far as you can, because that can actually backfire. All right, let's do something else. Let's just roll the shoulders a little bit. So I like to roll my shoulders like this with my hands on the shoulders. If you'd rather keep your arms dangling or on your lap, that's fine. Just start to move the shoulders a little bit in some circles in one direction, and then you can go the other way. Just giving a gentle loosening. We're not trying to change our entire structure and body all in one session. We're just introducing some very gentle movements so that hopefully we can create a little more space and a little more sense of relaxation. The neck is a place where a lot of people hold tension, so let's just do some head and neck movements where you bring your chin down and then lift it to just level, or if you want to lift it a little bit, if that's okay for your neck, you can do that. So a little nodding up and down just to kind of check in, how's the neck moving today? And then we could do a slow motion no with our head, shaking the head, but slowly looking from one side to the other and noticing if your head turns a little further one side than the other. And then, of course, little circles or even half circles. Sometimes I'll do just semicircles like this. And I'm not going into my fullest range of motion to start. I'm doing a check-in, and then I can increase it if it's feeling okay. If you want to do a fuller circle, that's okay. I invite you to not drop your head back, at least at first, unless this kind of neck movement is something that you do really often and you're very familiar with your range of motion. You can go the other way. Now, if you want a little deeper stretch, you can follow along with this. Take one ear to the shoulder or toward the shoulder. You notice I'm not going very far. I'm just checking in. If you want to increase the stretch a little bit, so my right ear is going toward my right shoulder, I'm going to drop or intentionally reach the left shoulder, the other shoulder down, and that's going to create a little more sensation or stretch here. Sometimes while I'm in this position, I'll play with moving my head gently by tucking the chin or looking down or lifting the chin a little. Just some gentle movement with my head leaning to one side. I also make sure I'm not clenching my jaws by keeping my teeth separated or doing a little release with my mouth. And then nice and easy, bring your head up when you're ready and just move it around a little before we do the other side to kind of check in, see how your body's responding. And then when you're ready, go to the other side. You're welcome to add to the stretch by reaching your arm a little down, pulling the shoulder very gently away from your ear, making sure your jaws are not tight or tense or your teeth are not clenched. And then if you want to add a little movement, you're welcome to play with that. So this is a good place to start, very simple. There's so many other chair movements and stretches we can do, and I'll introduce those in a future video. But for now, just check in, see how you feel. Remember that these little tiny practices, even just doing one of those movements every day, can make a big difference in how you show up in your life. They can help us feel more grounded, more present in our bodies, and that helps us to be more patient and tolerant, not just with ourselves, but with others. So thank you always for practicing with me, and I will see you in next week's Self-Care Sunday. Till then, peace.